Deborah Renshaw slows down, and he gets hit, or she gets hit from behind by Sean Murphy in the 07 truck.
And Ray Dunlap's caught up with Steve Park.
Well, and you guys documented at the top of the show that the fact that many of these trucks are locked into the show does allow us to go to drafting practice. But, Steve, that's the result of before we go qualifying, if you draft first, these problems can occur.
Just ignorance. I mean, I don't know, I've been racing here a long time, and I mean, we're out there just getting drafted in practice, and there was a couple guys I didn't want to draft with, and obviously chose the wrong person to draft with again, and just ignorance. I mean, the Orleans Dodge is torn up. I'm pretty disappointed. We got a good truck, and we just can't even get to the race, So it just frustrates me, and and makes more work for these guys. It's an impound race. It's supposed to make guys work a little bit less. But walk down pit road, you're going to see people working twice as hard as they did before. So, I mean, I think it's a good rule. It's just that just people need to use your heads out on the racetrack. And, I mean, what can I say? I'm just very disappointed.
Absolutely. And that's all that needs said, guys.
There's Todd Cleaver's number 50 on the back of the tow truck, making its way into the infield. He was one of the other, as well as Kerry Earnhardt and Steve Park, involved in the first incident. Coming this February to Speed Build or Bust. One novice bike builder has 30 days to create a one-of-a-kind custom bike. If the bike makes the grade, you get a ride at home. Don't miss the season premiere of Build or Bust, February 23rd at 8 p.m. only on Speed. Wendy Venerini is caught up with the driver of the 13, Tracy Hines.
We were sitting here waiting for Kerry Earnhardt and Todd Cleaver to come in from the Infield Care Center, and Tracy Hines walked by me and he said, "Hey, I'm the fastest in practice. Don't you want to talk to me?" I said, "Sure, come here." Tracy, your truck's got to be pretty good so far.
It is, Wendy. Right now, the ThorSport guys are doing a great job. Number 13 truck, unsponsored, mind you, so anybody that's got money, send it our way. It's running good. Lance Hooper and I, unfortunately, this is what I thought was going to be my breakout year with Lance Hooper, a driver who understood the racing program. Unfortunately, he gave us his 2-week notice, so this is our last race with him. California, I kind of have no crew chief, so we're trying to do it all today so we can get a bunch of people come out and want a job with us and hopefully sponsor us.
Tracy Hines, the fastest on the track in the unsponsored Chevrolet, right?
Well, Wendy, whenever there's a problem on the racetrack, many days go by sometimes before the drivers get a chance to talk about it, but not so today. First thing Kerry Earnhardt did when he got back to the garage was walk right to the number 62 truck, and you can see that he and Steve Park are having conversation right now about what transpired on there. Many different mirrors inside these trucks. The guy's got to do an awful lot to know where they're at on the racetrack, and the first thing that came out of Kerry's mouth over here was, "I did not know that I cut you off." And Park says, "I don't know how you knew that." But they're continuing to have their conversation here, and they'll get it worked out, I'm pretty sure. Now let's check in with Wendy, who's caught up with Todd Cleaver.
Todd Cleaver just walking back into the garage area. Todd, tell us what you saw from your eyes.
I really don't know what happened up there. I saw the 15 truck get kind of going into the wall there, and once he got in there, come back across the track, nowhere to go. Hate it for my guys. We had a really good truck, tested really good here in January. I was really excited about this, but I need to stay out of the Infield Care Center here. It has been a tough week for me so far.
It has. You took a wild ride in the ARCA race, flipping end over end, and now today, how are you going to pick up your spirits and get back out there to continue on?
Our backup's probably not as good as our primary was, obviously, but, we'll just do what we got to do. Now I've had 3 vehicles here. I got 3 vehicles here, and I've crashed 2 of them so far. So we'll just do what we can with the backup and try and get a good finish out of here.
Rookie Todd Cleaver a little disappointed. They'll be taking out their backup car.
That was a good situation there. Kerry Earnhardt, who was really a good guy, does not have that much experience in a speedway car here at Daytona, so he immediately came over. Obviously, at least wasn't sure what happened, or maybe came over to take the blame. And Steve's going to try to educate him a little bit. Steve's got an awful lot of experience here, and at least Kerry's good enough to come over here to apologize and to listen, and he'll be better for that, Michael.
He walked right up to Steve. That's where the problem was. Kerry cut off Steve, and they worked through it. I'm sure Steve was quite upset and shocked. I bet you he couldn't believe what happened because he's just running, trying to put in some laps. And I'm glad to see those two talking. Hopefully they can get to a common ground. This is where Kerry walks up and starts talking to Steve, and I bet you Steve's saying, "What were you doing, man?" And then Kerry's saying, where were you at? How did that happen? And you know, that's what happens when it's a wreck. When you have the ability to watch it on a replay, it's pretty simple to figure out what happened. But when you're in the trenches and you're battling, you just need an inch to clear a guy, and you happen to make a move and it doesn't work out, you're like, I'm not sure what happened. Help me out. What did happen? And these guys are talking about just that.
Well, remember, they're making these decisions at 189 miles an hour is what the top speeds have been so far. Kerry Earnhardt in the 15 just not clearing the 62 of Steve Park, and that's the reason why we're not practicing right now. They're getting that cleared up, and they'll be back on the track momentarily. We'll be back with more on Speed. Speed Weeks on Speed Channel presents NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series Practice presented by Netscape. Phil Parsons, Michael Waltrip up in the booth. Michael will be with us for about another 15 minutes before he has to go down to prepare for Busch practice down on pit road and in the garage. Wendy Norris, or Wendy Venerini, and Ray Dunlap.
Yeah.
Trucks are back out onto the track.
Caution's out.
And it looks as though the caution has come back out again.
I don't see anything that's happened.
We're hearing reports that there's some oil on the racetrack. Trucks were out there just for a lap or two, and then the caution flag comes back out.
Red flag comes out, meaning everyone off of the track or stop in your location. So they're going to check it all out. While we're doing that, let's go down to Wendy Venerini, who's caught up with Jack Roush.
Thanks, Rick. Frustration for Roush Racing, as this is the second incident that rookie Todd Cleaver has been involved with this week. It was earlier in an ARCA race where he flipped. Jack, I saw you walk over to Todd when he came into the garage. You put your arm around his shoulder, and you smiled, and you shook his hand. What'd you say to him?
I asked him where he came in from. I didn't. I thought he was thinking about going back, and I was seeing how long a trip it would be for him. He's we had to put him in the ARCA race, you know, to qualify for the next Craftsman truck race, and somebody crashed in front of him and collected him, and he got wrecked, even though he finished ran most of the race in second place. That was within the closing laps of the race. And of course, we're just getting started here, and same thing happened. Somebody turned to 15, and the 15 came down and collected him. So he had no part in either incident. It's sure discouraging, I'm sure, for him. He wants to get going. I reminded him, which I'm sure he didn't know, that Kurt Busch's first run here in a truck, first or second time he went through turn 1, there was a blown engine waiting for him, and he crashed his truck. Came back and finished. As I recall, he finished second. Either one of you finished second, but you know, there's still plenty of time to get ready. The team's real strong. You know, we've got prospects of having another really good truck, so we'll get going.
So what are you expecting out of Todd Cleaver when he gets in the backup truck? Any words of inspiration when he gets in it the second time?
Well, he just gonna have to pay attention to what's happening in front of him, which I fault him for neither wreck. You know, he just caught up in a wreck he couldn't avoid. I suspect that after he gets more experience, he'll have the hair on the back of his neck start standing up whenever he sees certain things happen in front of him. But right now, he's like a young bird dog that's been shot over and hasn't been hit yet.
This is Todd Cleaver's first event in a restrictor plate race, and it's all about being at the wrong place at the wrong time.
You know, you heard Jack Roush mention the accident that Todd Cleaver had at Daytona in the closing laps of the ARCA race. Watch this. They're there coming off turn 2. The 9 car of Joey Miller gets sideways, clips the 60. That's Todd Cleaver in the 60. What a wild rider. Michael, you've had rides like that. Unfortunately, we both have. And it's no fun watching you. When he gets down on the grass right here, you're going to see the car do some more tumbles right here. But fortunately, he was able to walk away with just some minor bruises, as we heard him say earlier.
He liked about a foot being past the crash, and he needed 1 foot, and instead he winds up crashing, flipping over. That was the last time he's in a race car. Today, within the first half hour of being in his race truck, he crashes again. I know he's thinking this Daytona place isn't all I've heard about it. It's not as much fun as I thought. I flipped over on that back straightaway last February here, and that's a tough pill to swallow.
And Todd Cleaver is the recipient of the Race for the Ride that Jack Roush put on to fill this seat that has been vacated by both John Wood and Carl Edwards. And this is how the accident took place just a few minutes ago. That's Kerry Earnhardt in the 15. Todd Cleaver getting into him, had nowhere to go. And so, as Jack Roush mentioned, no fault of his, but just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Now, you see what Todd will do? He'll go back and watch the video of that. He'll see what happened in front of him, where Kerry was sliding. He'll second guess himself. Maybe I could have gone high. Maybe I could have went lower. But he'll learn from it. And like Jack said, he'll be smarter the next time something goes wrong.
Ray Dunlap.
Well, you guys, if you look at the speed charts, you might notice a name that is obviously missing on there. That would be Bobby Hamilton, because he has not been on the racetrack yet, but they're preparing to do that as Bobby starts to buckle in and get ready to go out in his Lufkin Pro Series truck. I asked him, why have you not been on the track yet? He said, Ray, we tested 2,000 miles over the winter, and he said, all we got to do is shake this thing down a little bit, make sure it's okay, and we'll be good to go for qualifying tomorrow. These guys did the same thing last year. Not very much track time here during practice. They just really don't need it.
He's pretty confident, Bobby Hamilton. Last year, Daytona 500, as we're watching, or we just watched Todd Cleaver flipping over. Michael, you experienced a similar situation.
Yeah, Johnny Sauter drove up into the side of Brian Vickers, and they both ran into me and wound up down in the dirt flipping around. Had a great car for the Daytona 500. Really felt like we could win the race. And for some reason, as soon as the race started, my car pushed. It was really too tight the whole time, and that put me back in the middle of all that. And, you know, Johnny Sauter just messed up and caused me a big crash. And then I couldn't get out. I was in that mess there, and I couldn't free myself, so that was a little frustrating as well.
In just 4 days, NASCAR on Fox returns with the 47th running of the Great American Race. 43 drivers clash in the fastest, fiercest, most high-powered sporting event in the world, the Daytona 500. That's Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, in high definition only on Fox. Welcome back to the Florida Dodge Dealers 250 practice. Red flag conditions on the track currently as the safety crews are cleaning up, I believe, some oil that was left on the track. 3 trucks were involved in an accident where 2 backup trucks are coming out and they're trying to work on the third. All 3 of those trucks are going to be in the field because of the new qualifying rules that take place this year.
And then, again, the first time in over 50 years of NASCAR that we have rules like this. The highest ranked 30 owners from 2004 are eligible for a guaranteed position. In the truck series here, 29 trucks qualify under that rule. The 30th truck will be a past champion, Bobby Hamilton, because he's in a 04 truck that did not have enough points to qualify on the top line right there. So he's automatically in this field. So that means 30 trucks are guaranteed a spot in. There's 12 trucks right here for 6 spots. And of those 12 trucks, there's a lot of high-financed, factory-supported teams with terrific drivers that have to race their way into this field.
And there's 2 past champions of this race on that list. One of them being Mike Wallace, and he's standing by with Ray Dunlap.
Well, thank you, Rick. Mike sits here in the Federated Auto Parts Chevy, just getting ready to go back out. He, of course, has been waiting for them to get the track all cleaned up. And Mike, you know, when I look through the statistics trying to get ready for a race, I always look across yours, and yours are some of the best of any driver ever at Daytona. What is it about this track that makes you so good?
I don't have a good answer for you, except I just like it. I enjoy racing here at Daytona. I believe I understand the draft, you know, kind of just watching today some guys that are incredibly impatient out there, and we're just practicing. You know, it makes no sense to me what some of them are doing, but you just got to be patient. It's as much as you make a run on somebody, you got to be able to make sure you complete the pass, you know, without their help. So it's I'm not a really good chess player, but they say, you know, I think it's like a chess match. You got to pre-think the move in front of you. Yeah. But really like doing it, like racing, love driving Kenny Schrader's Federated Auto Parts truck, you know, and our Lucas Oil Chevrolet is pretty good over in the Cup side. And when I get done here, I'm going to go run a Busch car, so we'll hopefully we'll have a good day for all of them.
Absolutely. Now, whenever we've been talking on this show quite a bit about the competition for 2005, but at this race specifically, the competition's unbelievable. Is your truck good enough to win?
Well, I hope it is. You know, right now it's really difficult to figure out where you're at because everybody went out and started drafting right away. There was very few single car or single truck runs. I went out and ran a single lap, and then it's just, you know, we're like 33rd on the board, and it's like, okay, well, let's just go race. Ken Schrader Racing's always prepared a truck good enough to win the race. It's just if we get in the right position. You know, last year we ran second up to the last lap to Carl Edwards, finished third to Quapple and Edwards, and I think we've got the ability to win again this year, but the field is incredibly tough. I mean, this is a tough field of trucks, and there's 25 guys that are capable of winning this race easily.
Absolutely. Well, we'll wish you good luck. This is a brand new chassis, truck number 30 for Ken Schrader Racing, and Mike Wallace, of course, is the only driver that will be attempting all 3 races.
trucks are rolling again as they make their way back out onto the 2.5-mile super speedway, and you see them running together, which means we're going to see more drafting practice.
Looks like Rick Croft at the front of that pack. See the 75 of David Starr.
They say these trucks are a lot of fun to drive off pit road. You're hauling the mail right till you grab fourth gear and hit the air on the back straightaway.
You can spin the wheels in every gear with these things.
And that's as fast as you're going. And I've been running restrictor plates so long at Daytona and Talladega. I bet that's a wild feeling the first time you step down on one of these things leaving the pits. They've got probably 200 or 300 more horsepower than a car, and that's amazing.
Even with that cowl air restrictor, they probably still have 675 horsepower at the rear wheel, so they have a lot of horsepower. And I've done some testing in these trucks at Talladega, which is very similar to Daytona, and it's a blast.
Check them out. They didn't take them long either to start dicing it up, Bill. These trucks put a tremendous hole in the air, so when you're in the wake in the back, you can figure out a way to drive up beside a guy. We haven't seen anybody be able just to drive by anyone yet, though. Kerry tried it. He wasn't quite clear. You have to be very patient because you can't complete a pass, and that gets frustrating. If you're the guy trying to pass a guy, or if you're the guy getting passed, and you just get hung there, it gets frustrating.
And you don't want to be side by side really any longer than you have to be. Here we see David Starr and Rick Crawford. They've been side by side almost a full lap now. Robert Hunt from the trail truck jumped behind to push the outside truck ahead, and it looks like they may be able to clear now. There you see Bobby Hamilton coming on the racetrack in the unfamiliar number 04 truck.
Now he's going to run this truck for just the first 4 races, or the number 04 for just the first 4 races. This is his team's guaranteeing 2 trucks in the starting lineup. He's a former champion. He gets in because of that. The 4 truck was up in the points. He won the championship in that truck, so it's in and it's eligible. They put Casey Atwood in that truck and Bobby in the other truck, so that he's guaranteed both trucks in the starting lineup.
And he also still has the 18 truck that Chase Montgomery is driving this year. He's guaranteed in the field. So Bobby Hamilton Racing will actually have 3 trucks in this field, along with Deborah Renshaw on the 8 truck, which is Bobby Hamilton Racing 2. It's a kind of a satellite operation that Ray Montgomery owns, Chase Montgomery's father. So he will have affiliated 4 trucks in this field.
Well, and Ray, Phil, we talk about guaranteeing truck starting spots. NASCAR has always done that. There's been 4 or 5 guys, 7 guys that have been guaranteed a starting spot in every race through the provisional system. They've just changed the provisional system this year to where now there's 30-some trucks that are getting a provisional, basically. They're guaranteed a spot in the field. And that way, the good trucks can race for those remaining spots. We got 12 good teams racing for 6 spots. No one's going to be able to lollygag their way into the race. You're going to have to battle to get into the race, and I think that's going to make for better racing as well.
I do too.
One of the big reasons for this change is they wanted to make sure that when a truck left their home shop that they knew they were going to be in the race. They didn't want to have the possibility come up that they weren't going to make the race. So this helps out with sponsorships. They can guarantee their sponsors as long as they attempt to qualify at every race, or they attempt every race, they will maintain that position if they're in the top 30 in points. And that actually takes place for the first 4 races. It's last year's owner points. After that, it will be current year owner points.
And I think this is a result of what happened last year in Nextel Cup a little bit. Early in the season, there weren't that many race cars showing up at the racetrack. So some guys got them some status by just simply showing up to compete in an event. They didn't have enough speed to qualify for an event, but they showed up and there was room for them. They got them into the show. NASCAR didn't like that. They switched things, and by the end of the year, there was 50, 60 cars showing up for the races anyway. But this is a much better system. Makes much more sense to guarantee that your guys that race every week will be in the field.
Michael, I appreciate you coming up here. We're going to have to kick you out of here because we know that you've got Busch Series practice coming up next on Speed Channel, and you're going to be in the 99 car. So why don't you hop out of here and go down and do some practicing?
Good, because these trucks all around like this are making me nervous. So I'm going to get out of here, leave it to you guys. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Great.
All right, see you, Michael.
Practice continuing. Daytona International Speedway Speed Weeks continues on Speed Channel. We will be back. The trucks will actually be back on the track tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for another hour-long practice before qualifying. And in between that practice, which is at 9 a.m., a retrospective look at the 10 years of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. 10 years tough. An excellent production put together that really chronicles the history of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, and then that will be followed up by the qualifying for the Florida Dodge Dealers 250.
Not only are we going to be worrying about starting positions for this truck race on Friday night with tomorrow night's qualifying, but we're going to be looking extremely closely at those 12 trucks that are not guaranteed a spot in this field, racing for those 6 open spots. So there's going to be a lot of drama in this qualifying session tomorrow night.
Well, Phil, I want to ask you, are you surprised that some of these guys are not trying to do individual qualifying runs right now in this practice, because we're really running out of time?
Well, we really are, and I think a lot of the drivers have done some individual runs. And remember, most of these trucks were down here a few weeks ago testing, so they did a lot of single truck runs then. And they've also, most of these trucks have also been to Talladega too, so they pretty much know what they have. You see Rick Crawford waving, saying, hey, get off my rear bumper right there. That's a pretty tenuous draft right there. 3 wide for a few moments, 2 wide, about 6 rows deep. But you know, another thing we touched on a little bit earlier, a couple different times, was the impound. These trucks here at Daytona, after qualifying, will be impounded. That means the crew chief and the teams will be able to make very few adjustments to these trucks, and it's going to be like this the entire season for not only the Truck Series but the Busch Series. The Busch Series will be impounded each and every race also, and the Cup Series, about 2/3 of their races, they're going to be impounded after qualifying. So major changes going on in all the divisions of NASCAR.
Now, the impound, that's for cost savings, correct?
Absolutely, because these teams spent so much money for qualifying that right now it's going to be negated, because they're going to have to race with what they qualify essentially. We've had a few of those instances before with the Truck Series, some of the one-day shows we did at IRP and places like that, where they impounded the trucks, they qualified, made some very few adjustments, and then raced. But now we're going to have each and every race. So I was hearing that some of these teams were putting oil in their trucks just for qualifying that would cost $2,000 for 4 or 5 gallons of oil.
Jimmy Spencer, the only truck to break 47 seconds around the 2.5-mile trioval. Speed Channel's coverage of NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series practice from the Daytona International Speedway is presented by Netscape low-cost internet service. Netscape, just the net you need. Practice wrapping up for the Truck Series. This is the first of 2 practices that will take place again tomorrow morning at 9. They'll be back out onto the track for their final practice before qualifying tomorrow evening.
See a 3-truck draft right there. That's Dennis Setzer, the 46 Chevrolet in front. Mike Wallace, Robert Presley, 2 former winners here at Daytona in the Truck Series. Neither one of those trucks is guaranteed a position, but they feel it's important to get some drafting practice in for this. They feel pretty confident that they'll probably get in this show for the race Friday night, so they want to do some drafting practice to work on the handling package for the truck for the race.
Phil, you touched on it earlier. The field in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series in 2005 is really unmatched. It's unbelievable the quality of drivers that have come to the Truck Series this year. Mike Skinner out in front of Todd Bodine right there, as those two are working together a little bit on the drafting. 2 Toyota Tundras now running side by side, but people like Jimmy Spencer, who's on the top of the list right now. Ricky Craven, second fastest on the list. Both of those drivers coming into the series this year.
Rick, I couldn't believe how competitive this series was last year in 2004. And with all the additions that we talked about at the very top of the show, with the Ricky Cravens and the Jimmy Spencers, Johnny Benson full-time, Todd Bodine right there on the inside in the 66 truck full-time, along with Ron Hornaday coming back, Brendan Gaughan coming back. It's going to be an absolutely incredibly competitive season in 2005.
This practice started about an hour and a half ago and was supposed to have an hour and a half of practice, but a problem about an hour into this practice session with Kerry Earnhardt just clipping the front of Steve Park in the 62, and then Todd Cleaver getting caught up in that, caused us to stop practice for almost 15 minutes.
The one thing that nobody wanted was to see any kind of an accident. See if we can take another look at it. You see Kerry doesn't quite have Steve cleared. He pulls up in front of him. Steve cannot react quick enough to hit the brake to keep from touching Kerry. Turns him around. Todd Cleaver, nowhere to go, runs at him. There you see Kerry Earnhardt came up to Steve Park and said, buddy, I didn't know it was that close. I thought it was clear, whatever. You see Steve trying to help Kerry. He's going to learn from this. He's going to be much better from this. As you see the red and black flags, it means practice is over. The first practice for the Truck Series in the books.
So The 42 that are trying to make this field have been out onto the track. They'll be back out tomorrow morning. And welcome back to the Florida Dodge Dealers 250 practice. It just wrapped up on Speed Channel from Daytona International Speedway. A beautiful day for practice, and it worked out real well for Jimmy Spencer. He topped the charts just ahead of Ricky Craven. Those two Nextel Cup veterans back into the Truck Series and having a great day.
Remember, these speeds will not be indicative of how these trucks will qualify. All these top speeds right here are drafting practice. Drafting because most of these drivers and teams are guaranteed a spot in the field for Friday night.
Steve Park, 15th fastest. Kerry Earnhardt, 17th fastest. Todd Cleaver, 18th fastest. And those three trucks were all involved in this incident, which took place about 2/3 into the practice. Kerry Earnhardt in the 15 just didn't clear Steve Park, and this problem took place.
Yeah, quite a bit of damage for Todd Cleaver. They've already got a backup truck out. Steve Park had quite a bit of damage. The 07 of Sean Murphy had quite a bit of damage.
Continuing on with speed coverage of Speed Weeks, NASCAR Busch Series practice will be up next. NASCAR live at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, and that all followed by trackside at 7 p.m. Eastern. Dale Earnhardt Jr. about to get into his Busch Series car, spending some more time on the track. He's already been out on the track in his Cup car, and again the Busch Series will be making their first practice of the 2005 season next, and that will be live here on Speed Channel.
Pretty interesting track practice right there. We had one incident, unfortunately, but we had a lot of fast speeds. We've got 12 trucks racing for 6 positions.
And because of the change in qualifying, it probably won't affect too many people in a negative manner, as far as Kerry Earnhardt, Todd Cleaver, and Steve Park all involved in that incident, but they are locked into the race on Friday, so they won't have to worry about qualifying tomorrow evening. We'll be back with more on Speed Channel after this.